You'll start to notice that right around this end of January to around the end of February, things get a little quiet before the combine. They ramp up into free agency, and then it's all about the draft. So we're kind of just entering that lull period in the NFL. But there is one thing going on this week that the last couple of days have kind of proved to be very interesting in terms of who the Falcons could target. The Senior Bowl, the Panini Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. So on today's episode, we're going to talk a little quick scouting and some Senior Bowl sleepers that the Falcons could target. I've highlighted one, zeroed in on one guy that I believe could be an excellent find on day 2. That's exactly right, day 2. So what is the purpose of the Senior Bowl, Falcons fans? By the way, welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. The Senior Bowl is all about improving your draft stock as a player and finding hidden gems as a scout. Because the reality of the situation is that like the top 15 players, they're not going to do the Senior Bowl. They don't really need to. But then you'll see everybody else kind of throw their hand in the Senior Bowl and try to improve whatever draft stock they already currently have. For example, there could be a player that is currently a third-round mock that if he does really well at the Senior Bowl, he could end up becoming a late first or even a second-round pick. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about a player that I believe has definitely earned the right to be considered a draft target for the Falcons. But before that, we have some brand new updated NFC South sub rankings. Aints now actually still in first. I could not believe my eyes. 55,200 subs. We're closing in very, very closely at 50,382. And the Panthers report 1,641 over the Bucs, who are at the very bottom of the NFC South sub ranking. So, if you love Atlanta Falcons content, do me a favor, help us get over 50,400 on today's episode. Lock us in for the very best offseason content surrounding your Dirty Birds. All right, who are some former standouts of the Senior Bowl? In recent memory, Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Quinn Miners, one of the guards for the Denver Broncos, had a really great Senior Bowl. Daniel Jones was a standout, and remember, he ended up becoming like the 6th overall pick. And then, of course, Evan Neal as well for the New York Football Giants as kind of the running mate alongside Daniel Jones for a little bit. It is important that we bring this up because the Falcons have to be very smart about their draft picks this year. Why? They don't have a first-round pick. Again, I still think that trading back up to get James Pierce Jr. was a home run swing by Terry Fontenot, so I will give him credit for that because JPJ looks like an absolute stud and will be a stud for the next couple of years. But with only 5 draft picks right now, you can clearly see we've got to be smart and do our due diligence about who we're going to end up taking. So I'm paying a lot of attention right now to not only the Senior Bowl. I'll be maybe attending the Combine. We'll see here in just a little bit. But I'm going to be making sure that I keep my eye out and give you guys the players that I believe have a real shot of joining the Atlanta Falcons next year. So who is that player? Drum roll, please. I've highlighted one. His name is Josh Cameron. He is 6'1", senior from Baylor University, from Cedar Park, Texas. Currently plays down in Waco. And 2025 was very kind to him with Sawyer Robertson as their quarterback. But who is Josh Cameron? 6'1", 224 pounds. He's a thick, trunky, coastal kid, as our guy Colin Cowherd would say. Contested catch and yak ability is his superpower. That's his bread and butter. He is strong. He's got a wide frame, and he can just truck opposing defenders, namely the smaller defensive backs in the corners and nickel corners. There is one small negative that I would say about Josh Cameron, and it's probably why he's got a round 3 grade. His lack of route tree leads to that lower grade. He doesn't really have that bag in him yet. Does that make sense? Like, he's not going to be the route runner that Devontae Smith, is or will ever be. So the one area that you can kind of develop a little bit is that route tree, but what you get in power, what you get in speed, and what you get in the ability to go up and get contested catches, kind of like a Drake London, is unmatched. So NFL.com did their homework as well. They were out at the Senior Bowl. And here's what they wrote about yesterday's performance. This is yesterday's performance. On Wednesday, Cameron was on brand throughout the entire team and one-on-one sessions. On multiple occasions, he fought through cornerbacks looking to impede his route and simply overpowered them to the spot for the catch. He was able to outwork tight man coverage for 50-50 balls that typically turn into incompletions. He's strong, has top flight hands, and is a plus ball tracker. My draft grade for Cameron will be getting a bump after what he has shown here in Mobile. I love that. I love that. So recency bias would tell you that he's trending well. He can do it in the bigger performances, right? Like Senior Bowl, he knows he's got to perform. And he even said, he's like, it's about making plays. And make plays did he. 69 receptions, giggity, 872 yards, 9 touchdowns, averaging 12.6 per carry. Cameron showed natural progression as well every single year in college football. You can go back and look at all of his statistics. From the time that he was a freshman to the time he was a sophomore, junior, and senior, he got better and better and better every single year. That's another really good thing. Pro scouts want to see that as you get further along in your tenure as a college football player, that you are getting better. And he did that. So not only do you get the physical traits that everybody wants, you get the size that everybody wants, you get the speed that everybody wants, but you also get the progression that everybody wants. Oh, and by the way, you can also put him on special teams. He returned punts for the Baylor Bears this last year as well. Averaged 20.7 yards per return. He could be a gunner on special teams for the Atlanta Falcons. And incredible alignment versatility on the line of scrimmage. Meaning what? You put this guy in the slot, you put him out wide, you put him in the backfield, you put him in motion. It doesn't matter where you put him. He's going to excel anywhere because he's got that natural skill set. Do you know who he reminds me of? I love doing comps. I know you do too. My comp for him is actually a third round, kind of a poor man's Deebo Samuel. Now, could he end up becoming a Deebo Samuel? Time will tell. And I don't know that he'll get drafted by the Falcons. This is just my prediction, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that this is something that the Falcons are going to explore. But if I am doing my homework as a YouTube host, I'm sure that Matt Ryan and whoever the next Falcons GM is, they're going to do their homework as well. So I believe that Deebo and Cameron kind of have that similar style of play, which is ultra physical, ultra aggressive, and just going to lower the shoulder and truck you. And also, Deebo, not the greatest route runner, but you don't have to be if you are that strong and that fast. Would you draft Josh Cameron? Type D for draft, type P for pass. I don't know that I could answer this question yet, but I do know that there's a lot of intrigue surrounding this player, specifically for that day 3 pick. Now, coming up next, we're going to move off the draft for a second. We're going to talk another free agent. And the one Falcon that I've been reading about that could leave that I would re-sign today, tomorrow, whenever you're available, do not let this man leave the locker room. I'll tell you who that is coming up here in just a little bit. Before that, though, got to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks. The big game is right around the corner. Patriots versus Seahawks. And, you know, I'm really excited and also kind of sad that the football season is ending. So if you want to cash in on America's biggest sporting event ever, you got to do it with our friends over at Prize Picks, where if you download the app today, you get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. They've got a brand new feature alert, by the way. They have early payouts, meaning if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings. It could be a flex play. It could be a power play. I made a lineup for the big game as well. Drake May on my max discount play. Obviously, he's going to have more than half a passing yard. He's going to have more than half a passing touchdown as well. I also have JSN and Ramondre Stevenson in as well. Yours can look like this. It doesn't have to. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Kaden Elliss is that player for the Dirty Birds that I would not let leave the room. Kaden Elliss had a phenomenal season. And believe it or not, even though he had 10 tackles for loss and 107 tackles, I believe the sack numbers could have been much higher, but they dropped him back in coverage far too frequently. And that's not a bad thing because I do believe he has the versatility to excel at all areas as a middle-of-the-field linebacker. But there is a team that seems to be very interested in acquiring his services. I've been reading articles all over the place that the Vikings are floated as a team that would potentially land Kaden Elliss. They'd be willing to pay a premium price considering they are losing a couple of their free agent linebackers. So it just makes sense for them, right? Can't blame him for thinking about it, talking about it. Here's what one of the biggest Vikings blogs in Minnesota had to say about Kaden Elliss. It's called Vikings Age. The last contract Elliss signed with the Atlanta Falcons was a 3-year, $21 million contract back in 2023. So we could either be looking for similar money or slightly more. But at 30 years old, he's starting to get up there in age. So it would be hard to justify paying him more than $8 million a year. But putting him in a Brian Flores defense where he can flourish might be enough to convince him to go for it. Now let's just talk about that productivity. Even at 30 years old, you're still getting a guy that is producing like one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And he's not just a linebacker. He's also a pressure player. He could be an edge rusher. And I wouldn't let him leave the building for a second. I wouldn't. I saw too much from Kaden Elliss. Even when Divine Diablo went down with his injury, I saw Kaden Elliss fill that middle linebacker role perfectly. Perfectly. And if you look at the Falcons' linebacker depth chart, very top-heavy, very bottom, not so much. J.D. Bertrand was awful this year, and Josh Woods is a special teams player. So you've essentially got Divine Diablo and Kaden Elliss, and Troy Anderson, who's on the PUP list. Who knows if he's ever going to suit up again. But I've been banging the drum to keep Elliss as an edge. Think about this. If the Falcons either drafted or signed another free agent linebacker, or cross your fingers, Troy Anderson comes back, your two middle linebackers would be Anderson, whoever that free agent would be, and Divine Diablo. You could move Elliss to be a pure edge with JPJ and Jalen Walker and also simultaneously disguise coverage in which he can back up as a middle-of-the-field linebacker. I think the big three with JPJ, Jalen Walker, and Kaden Elliss is just too good to pass up. He is a pressure player. Allow him to be a pressure player. But it's going to cost because, like I said, he's probably going to be in the ballpark of he probably wants somewhere around $10 million. I'd be willing to give him a little bit more in order to stay. 2 years, $25 million. That's $12.5 million per year. For a guy who came off of an excellent season, you do not want to let this player under Jeff Ulbrich leave the team. And if you increase his role to edge, where he has more productivity, you could justify the $12.5 million a year. You could. Because if you're getting more sacks, that's more, not more sexy. It's a sexier number. It is a sexier stat line than just 107 tackles like you'd be seeing from a random linebacker. So if you had to re-sign a player, who is the first Falcon that you would re-sign? Mine would be Kaden Elliss. And obviously, Drake London is in that, but he's got one more year on his contract, so I'm not counting him. I'm talking about free agents this year. I'd be re-signing Kaden Elliss for sure. Do me a favor, though. Let me know in the comment section down below. Before we take on off out of here, remember, we are only, about 5,000 below Saints now in subscribers, and we've got a firm lead on the two new channels. So if you want to step on these guys and catch up to these guys, hit that sub button for nonstop Atlanta Falcons offseason coverage. My name is Moose. That's all I got for you on this episode. Might be back a little bit later today. We will see here in just a moment. As always, Dirty Birds fans, rise up and be cool.